Hello and welcome to the Only Endometriosis podcast you need, and to this special series where I walk my own recovery path in real time with you. Before we dive in, a gentle reminder, I'm not a doctor. I'm a women's health therapist who's lived with endometriosis and managed my own symptoms for more than 2 decades, and I've supported hundreds of women through the twists and turns of this condition. I know my body, I know my triggers, my patterns, and the little whispers that tell me when things are flaring, and I know the red flags that mean it's time to get urgent medical help. I'm doing this journey with proper medical support from my GP. What I'm sharing here is my lived experience. This is not a blueprint, it's not a prescription, and it's not a promise of what will work for you. The tools I use are the tools I trust for my own body. Endometriosis shows up differently in every woman, and what's soothing for me may not be right for you. So please, as you listen, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Seek your own advice, follow your own instincts, and remember that your path will be as unique and sacred as your body is. This is one woman's story, raw, honest, and shared in the hope that it helps you feel a little less alone as you walk your own path. Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Only Endometriosis podcast you need. So I've said this week, actually, as you might have noticed, we've dropped to fortnightly schedules for the podcast. And that's because this series is tracking my journey as my own client, and symptoms over the previous few weeks have begun to settle. So they've found a more gentle and more stable rhythm. So that's what we're reflecting. If I was a client, I would have dropped to fortnightly appointments. So that's what this podcast is doing. It's just simply following that rhythm. So in terms of podcast dates, the appointment or the timescale that we're tracking for this appointment is the 4th to the 18th of February. So it's over 2 weeks. These are from notes that I've taken. I carried out my own kind of treatment appointment, if you want, and these are from the notes that I took. So following on from the last podcast, from the last appointment, things did really start to stable. So for the first kind of week or so, my symptoms were improving. And that's not to say, I always say to my clients, that's not to say that every day felt better than the last day. That's not how this healing works. That's certainly not how endometriosis works. But for these first kind of 5 or 6 days after the last appointment, symptoms did stabilise. So I was feeling gently energised. My energy had massively improved from the previous weeks. Inflammation had steadied. It was still there, but it was not having the same peaks as it had done previously. And I was feeling way more capable. I had a lot more self-belief. I was feeling more energised. I was feeling in a space where I was absolutely owning this endometriosis journey and absolutely owning life as well. I think part of that as well was from the previous episode when I talked about sort of setting up my new clinic and how I hadn't really even stopped to think about what I was doing. And the last episode actually gave me opportunity to do something that I wouldn't normally do, because I'm not great at this kind of self-reflection. Even in my project management days, I was really, really bad at that kind of reviewing aspect of going over what had worked well and what hadn't. I was kind of okay at the what hadn't, but the what worked well, I was kind of really uncomfortable with that element of it. And that's something that I really struggle with today. And I say I struggle with it, I don't struggle with it because I just don't do it. And it's really bad because I always say to my clients, celebrate your wins, look at what you have achieved, look at the good stuff that's happened. And that's one of the really important things that I'm learning myself from doing this podcast series, is that actually I need to take more time out to review my own progress in life in general. So I think that's what the last episode gave me. That's what my last appointment gave me. It was a sense of, actually, do you know what? I am doing okay. I had an idea to start a new clinic space at the beginning of a month, and by the end of the month it was all ready to go. Clients were booked in. And that has continued, that momentum, that looking back, that reviewing, that feeling actually that I've achieved something really good, and riding on that positive energy has really continued into this first few days following that last appointment. So that energy, that positivity that I got from reviewing and from saying, actually, do you know what? I was really good at this. I actually did something. That energy kind of continued into that first week of this next episode. So yeah, my symptoms had stabilised, my energy had steadily improved, I was feeling like I was adulting, I was feeling capable, and I was feeling like I was in complete control. which is fabulous. Because of that, I think I let my, well, I definitely relapsed on the self-care. So I was riding this wave of positivity, and I know that this is so common. It happens with pretty much, I want to say every client, but it might not be every single client, but pretty much every client that I've worked with has this exact thing happen at some point in their journey. You feel as if you've got it. You feel as if you're on top of it. Now, I should know probably more than most that however many weeks we are into, is it 8 weeks now? Can't remember, but 8 weeks into what is essentially a 12-week journey, even with all of my experience, even with all of the skills I've got, even I should know that this isn't the end of the journey. I can feel as if I'm in complete control. I can feel as if I've got it nailed, but actually my body had completely different ideas. So after the first week after the appointment, I suppose after the last podcast, I started to feel the bloating and the inflammation return. I started to feel my energy dip, I started to feel my enthusiasm dip, and I started to feel the self-doubt creep in. It wasn't anything dramatic. It wasn't anything that I panicked about. I just noticed it. And the first couple of days, I kind of noticed it, and there was a bit of a feeling of maybe denial, certainly the first day or so, complete denial it was happening. Oh, it's just a blip. And then I realised that actually this was a sort of a steady steady downturn, decline. This was something that I actually needed to manage. This was part of the flare up. This was my body calling to me for help. It wasn't something that I was just going to ride out. I think I mentioned at my last appointment, so in the last podcast, I think I mentioned that I had a running plan in place. I was going to start my Couch to 5K again. It wasn't quite couch, but I was going to start with the Couch to 5K because in my mind, when I set this plan up, I was being really gentle with myself. I set this plan up from a place of energy, from a place of positivity, from a place of feeling like I was adulting. I paid for a running app. I downloaded the plan and I was all ready to go. And just as I was scheduled to start, this is when all of these symptoms started kicking back in again. So my inflammation was rising. The bloating one morning when I woke up was incredible. It kind of, and I know that this will resonate with a lot of you, it kind of came out of nowhere. I woke up and I just had a much bigger belly than I had the night before. And that was kind of the start of this particular little flare up. On the back of that, I did let it get to me. Like I say, my energy shifted, my mindset shifted, and I completely scaled back my running plan because I thought, actually, this isn't going to suit my body. My period, I felt, was imminent. So I just thought, do you know what? Running when I'm on my period, when my periods are showing up as they are, when my body, my energy, everything is just still in that delicate phase, this isn't the time for me to start running. So I actually cancelled the running plan. I did the first 2 days. Actually felt really good, but the second day, I think it was the morning after the second day of running, that's when I got the bloating. So I just kind of thought, there could be a link here, so let's just not bother, let's just cut it right back. No drama, no kind of I don't know what the word is, but I suppose, no drama, no kind of spike in energy, no kind of fuss, just quietly, okay, let's just cut this running plan out. I used it as information, so I used my body as feedback, information to inform the decision about the running, and I adjusted my plan. All well and good. I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I've got this. However, and this is kind of what the heart of this episode is going to be about. The fact that I didn't start that running plan actually was a massive trigger because my symptoms after that got, I was going to say way worse, but that is dramatising. I know what I mean. That's making more of what was actually happening than what was happening. And again, that is really, really common because especially if we felt a period of sovereignty over our symptoms, especially if we felt some element of control and the energy and the positivity that we've got from that is really, really tangible. If we have these dips, I say when we have these dips, because you will, healing isn't linear. So when you have these dips, that can really impact on your energy, on your moods, on your sort of underlying anxieties, whatever they may be. So me not starting this running plan, I can tell myself all day that it's best for me, it's best for my body. I was listening to my body smugly, kind of, oh yeah, I know what my body's telling me, and I've accordingly adjusted my plans. But actually, the reality was that hit me really, really hard. I love running. It's something that I've done on and off for the last however many years. And I love it. It's one of my safe spaces. It's one of my mindful things. So if I don't do it, I do feel different in myself. So the fact that I cancelled this plan was a massive trigger at this point in the last 2 weeks. The internal narrative that for me is quite damaging restarted. So things like, oh, you're so lazy, you're not committed, you're flaky, you're never going to lose this tummy, which even if I don't, it really doesn't matter. But when you're in that moment, it's another added thing to the spiral. I'm really bad at finishing things, and I know I am. I'm brilliant at having ideas. I'm brilliant at starting things, but actually seeing things through has never been my forte. But that becomes the narrative. You're really bad at finishing things. You're lazy. You're flaky. You're not committed to stuff. You're not committed to your self-care. And that can really, really quickly spiral. And it didn't necessarily quickly spiral for me, but by the end of, and I'm just looking at my notes, by the end of about day 10, I was starting to see it spilling over into my business. So I was starting to feel anxiety around, can I really do this? I've started this clinic. Am I actually going to be able to see it through? Am I going to be able to maintain it? Am I going to be able to grow it? I'm flaky. I'm really bad at finishing things. So that then starts leaking into different areas of life. And again, that is really, really common. I see it with clients all the time. And if you don't catch that cycle, it can be really, really difficult to break. You can even start questioning your whole identity. So I did I can't remember if it's gone out or if it's just a scheduled post, but it was a post about how these kind of things aren't your identity. So things like breaking plans, things like starting something and have to finish it, things like altering plans, altering processes, that isn't your identity. So just because you can't start something like this running plan, just because I had to, I kind of did start it, but just because I had to stop it very, very quickly after starting it, that doesn't tie into my identity. That's just something that I had to do. That's just something that happened. It's an event. It's not my identity. But actually, if you don't stop this cycle, if you don't stop this kind of questioning and self-deprecating kind of loop, then it can quickly, like I say, seep into different areas of your life, but also seep into the very core of who you are. You can start questioning your identity. And I noticed in myself this old pattern. So one of the coping mechanisms that I've used probably forever is if I have these downtimes, if I have these times when my energy is crap, when I've had to cancel, for example, the running plan, then when I'm in this kind of doldrum, when I'm in this slump, I make plans for when I'm feeling better. So I kind of say, right, so the example this time was, okay, how am I going to break this spiral? How am I going to bring myself out of this, oh, you're so flaky, you're so lazy cycle? Right, fab, I'll sign up to a running challenge. I'll sign up to something tangible so that when I'm feeling better, when I'm feeling energized, I can start something else and I'll be brilliant. So I spent a good hour or so looking through different challenges. Did I want to do a triathlon? Hell no. I've tried to do that before, just didn't work. For a start, I can't swim. So no, that's a no. Did I want to do one of these run every day in March for charity kind of thing? Yeah, that's fine. I've got a couple of weeks to regain my energy. I can get out there and start running so that I'm fit enough. My body's well enough to do every day in March. Yeah, I could possibly do that. So hovered over the sign up button. That was kind of the favourite. Then I was looking at other things. Well, do I actually learn to swim again? Do I go back to swimming lessons? I was having swimming lessons just before COVID. Do I go back to swimming lessons? Do I take a challenge in my business? Do I do one of these? If you run your own business, you know you get inundated with requests to do free challenges. Do a free 10-day challenge, a free 5-day marketing sprint, all of this kind of rubbish. So do I sign up to that? Do I put my energy into making this business work? I kind of outsourced, if you will, outsourced that motivation. I was like, no, okay, I can do this. I can build myself up so that when my period's finished, I didn't mention that my period had started by this point. So when my period's finished, I will be fabulous. I'll be energized. I'll be raring to go, and I can take on all of these wonderful things. And I could feel the energy build within me. I could feel the positivity build within me. What I was doing was actually manufacturing some sort of control in this period where I felt that my control, my sovereignty over my symptoms was waning. And it's something that I have done in various guises as a coping mechanism, probably, like I say, forever. I actually wrote down here, when I feel powerless, I try to create structure. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was outsourcing that, so I was going to sign up to somebody else's structure, so I don't have to think about it. I just need to show up. I can show up when my energy's great. I can show up. So I was kind of trying to, like I said before, sort of outsourcing that structure to give myself some sort of feeling of power and control back. And that is not unusual. Again, I work with many, many women who do this similar kind of thing in order to re-energize, in order to recenter, in order to reaffirm their sense of self. We look external, and that's fine. However, I know in myself that this doesn't work for me, because this is exactly what I did last time. This is exactly what led me to pay for the running app. This is exactly what led me to do the Couch to 5K. And actually, I've said Couch to 5K. When I downloaded that app in the first place, I actually did improve running. I want to do a half marathon by November. I did scale that back to Couch to 5K, but that's the energy that I'm kind of that where I'm starting from. That kind of, I can do anything, I can achieve anything, I am all powerful energy that I want to be, that I want to step into. I think sometimes, and I think a lot of this comes from business coaching and things, you're told to, and I do it to some extent with my own clients as well, you're told to visualize what you want, visualize the life that you want to have, visualize the person you want to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I need to do personally, and if this does resonate, please do take this, but what I need to do is regulate that, because me wanting to be this person who can jump up on a Monday morning, leap out. Actually, Monday mornings aren't too bad for me. Leap out of bed on a Thursday morning, because that's when I find my energy is kind of a little bit stagnant. So this sort of person I want to be, that I leap out of bed on a Thursday morning, that I put my running shoes on, and then I go for a 10k run through the fields, through the trees, and I come home and I have a gloriously healthy breakfast, and I boss my business, and I work with all these fabulous clients, and this is going to be me. That is energizing, but it's also not sustainable. Certainly not sustainable overnight. So it's kind of finding that balance. As with everything I talk about, it's kind of finding that balance between using it to motivate you, but setting those goals as realistic targets, small steps, tuning into your energy, tuning into what you know is your cycle, your cyclical energy, in order to make it work. Because when it doesn't work, that's when we see the spiral again. Exactly the same as this. Buy the running app, sign up to the running app, sign up to the running plan, do 2 days, and then fail. I didn't fail. I set myself an unrealistic target based on how I wanted my energy to be, not actually listening to my body and understanding my body. Because I do understand my body. It's just not that easy. And so when I talk to clients about, and I know that I have to talk to clients about almost making it feel easy, almost making it feel accessible, but actually it isn't easy to do all the time, because we are all human and we are all complex, cyclical creatures with little voices and little elements of our brains that don't always do exactly what we want them to do. So it's not always easy. So luckily this time I caught myself. Before I signed up to that challenge, before I signed up to that run every day in March, or whatever it was, run 100 miles in March, it was something like that. Before I signed up to that, I just checked in with myself, and I just thought, hang on a minute, something isn't sitting right. It felt heavy. It kind of did feel energizing and I was using it to spur me on, but actually when I dug a little bit deeper, it was weighing heavily. It wasn't weighing heavily in my tummy, which is where a lot of my anxiety sits. It was actually weighing heavy in my shoulders. It was a weight. I was suddenly carrying a physical weight from it. I remembered the running app. I remembered all of the other times that I've signed up to stuff in moments of hope. Let's call it hope, because it might be delusional, but at that moment, you're feeling as if you can do it. You're feeling so powerful. So I remember the feeling of signing up to those things, feeling wonderful, but then the heaviness, the anxiety, the spiraling thoughts of having to cancel them because you just can't do them. And that's fine. We're not meant to be performing all the time, especially not if you're going through menopause, if you're living with something like endometriosis, adenomyosis, all of these things that really impact our energy, our fatigue. It's okay not to be able to run a half marathon every day. It's just we get programmed to feel like we should be pushing ourselves to do this kind of thing. So I remembered that feeling. I remembered the heaviness. I remembered the sense of frustration, of disappointment, the pressure that I put upon myself when I cancel things like this. So I didn't sign up for it. I stepped back and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to repeat this cycle this time. I consciously reframed what I wanted to do, what I wanted the next few days, few weeks, the next cycle to look like. And I focused on what I could do. So I focused on my business. I thought, right, okay, I'm getting quite anxious about the clinic. I'm getting quite anxious about, my business has many strands and I have cut it back massively in the last year. But I've obviously opened the clinic. I work with clients online. I do online drop-in clinics. I also do corporate workshops, and that is a lot. And when I'm organised, when I'm structured, when I'm in the zone, it works really well. But I'd felt myself slipping again because I started to doubt myself. I started to doubt my core self. That had started to slip. So rather than sign up to run every day in March, I decided that actually, even when my energy is at its low, even when my bloating is heavy, even when my periods are draining me, I can still run this business. I can still do the structures. I can still do the communications. I can still do the social media, all of that marketing stuff. I can still do all of that. So that's what I focused on. I consciously reframed, rather than pushing myself to do something that was aspirational, I just reframed on focusing on something that I knew I would do, that I knew I could do, and that I knew the chances of me actually completing it, not just doing the first days and thinking, do you know what, I've taken on too much here. The actual chances of not doing that were high. So I acknowledge the small achievements. So they're not necessarily small, but it's something that it isn't a big thing. And this is something else that I say to my clients all the time. And again, this is something that I'm really, really bad at doing myself. But actually, I set up a weekly win thing just in my diary. So on a Monday morning, or if I want to take a Monday off, I'll do it Tuesday morning, because that's how I'm going to roll this cycle. There's just 4 questions, gentle questions, all about my business. There's one about my life, just to regulate, just to review, just to look back what I did well the previous week. Just small things. Did I do my Facebook posts? Did I reply to emails? Did I send out the corporate quotes? That kind of thing. Just tick boxes, gentle tick boxes. And the impact of that has been huge. So even just doing it a couple of times, just looking back and saying, do you know what? I actually did all right there. The sense of achievement, the positivity that brings. Okay, it might not be the massive energy spark, the massive kind of aspirational surge of energy, but it's way more manageable. And actually, I've looked back at it a couple of times as well. If I felt that wobble happening, if I felt my period is so heavy today, I can't even contemplate going for a walk. So that's the other thing I decided to do. Rather than running every day, I was going to just try and get 10 minutes of fresh air, hopefully a walk around the block. But if that didn't happen, just 10 minutes of fresh air. If I didn't manage to walk, that's fine, because actually I did A, B, C, D, E instead. So I reframed consciously, focused on what I could do, and acknowledged the small achievements, because that level of gentle sustainability is way more energizing than we might think at the beginning. Something else I did as well, I actually went onto Vinted, love Vinted, and bought bigger clothes. Because actually one of the things that I realised that was really getting me down was when the bloating was hitting, I was going up two dress sizes at worst, but consistently going up one dress size. And I didn't have the clothes to wear. So I was trying to squeeze into smaller clothes essentially, which was just making me feel rubbish, because it was highlighting the fact that my body was shifting in those moments. So I actually went on and bought just some cheap one pair of maternity trousers, but just some cheap bigger clothes, so that in those moments where, and by cheap I don't mean scuzzy, I don't mean that I'm going to feel as if I am less. Okay, I have my sit around the house tracky bottoms and stuff, but in terms of going outside of the house clothes, nobody's going to notice that they were cheap. They're lovely clothes, because it's really important if you're going to do that, that it's on the same level. So the clothes that I wear on my thin, in inverted comma, days are not going to look any different to the clothes I wear on my bloated days. So that's really important, because you don't want to feel as if you're dressing down. You still want to be you and be your vibrant self, whether that's however that looks for you, whether that's wearing black or grey or vibrant colours. You want to be looking the same, trying to feel the same, even on your bloated days. So that was my moment of sovereignty. That was my absolute moment of sovereignty, where I just thought, do you know what? I'm not going to be showing up for other people. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to do what works for me, and I'm going to revel in that. I'm going to enjoy that, and I'm going to reflect on it and see it for this empowering phase that it is. I tell clients all the time to do this, and actually I've realised this cycle just how, gentle self-talk, Sarah, but just how difficult I find it. Let's put it that way. Just how difficult I find it. So, period started. My period was, it started with a bit of endo spotting, so that kind of greyish, pinkish, brownish blood. There was a couple of days of spotting of that initially, and then the actual period itself was almost textbook period. There was a few of the fibrous clots. I talked last time about the difference between different types of clotting. So there's a few fibrous clots, but actually nothing major, nothing that I would be in the slightest bit concerned about. The thing that I did recognise, though, it was much longer. So normally I have 2 days of bleed, and then sometimes it actually just stops and then it comes back for a couple of days. Sometimes it just peters out. Again, this has been the constant inconsistency throughout my adult period. Well, whilst I've been managing my endometriosis, that's kind of how my cycles, how my periods have looked. This bleed was healthier, it was a lot heavier, and it was a lot longer. So it was about 6 days of full-on fresh blood bleeding. There was no pain at all. The inflammation actually reduced after, so the inflammation around the 2 days of the endo spotting was quite palpable, and the bloating and a little bit of pain as well in the spotting days. But when the healthy blood came, absolutely fine. There was very, very few symptoms. I don't know, because one cycle isn't enough to see a pattern, but in my mind I'm correlating that release, that relaxing, that letting go of pressure, that realisation that actually I wasn't going to be running every day in March, that actually just doing social media, just planning my social media, just spending a morning writing my Monday morning prompts, my happiness prompts, just spending a morning doing that is an achievement in itself. And even if I don't do anything else that day, I've listened to my body, I'm leaning into what my body is telling me, I am listening inwards, as a lot of my posts say. And that's fine. That's something to be celebrated. And I think, and again, without more data, without kind of correlating it across different cycles where I've done the same, I can't definitely or definitively say that this is the case. But I think that because I relaxed, I released, my stomach softened, my shoulders dropped, my breathing became calmer, my nervous system relaxed and released. I think that's why my actual bleed was or felt a lot easier. So again, that rhythm was reclaimed. I've put here, it didn't regress. There was no drama around my bleed. Just seemed to be that rhythmic kind of bleed again. So actually, this last fortnight has been massively insightful for me, and it's been almost like all 4 seasons in one half of a cycle. In terms of self-care, I've still done my weekly Reiki sessions with Q. So if you can find somebody who does Reiki or whatever it is that your body needs on a weekly basis, then definitely sign up for that. I've done Reiki on myself, breath work, craniosacral work on my abdomen, and actually this is something that I stopped during the inflammation as well, because it just felt the localized area around where the bigger cyst is, where the endometrioma is, where that mass is, felt so tender that I just ended up doing Reiki on that part of my tummy. And even some days I couldn't stand that. So again, that's just about listening in. I had one ankle massage from my fabulous husband. My hydration levels weren't great. I've put it okay, but could improve. And I reduced the movement intentionally. So I started off, well, like I say, I did the first 2 days of the run plan. Well, actually the first 3 days, but 2 days of that involved running. One was just a half-hour walk. But I reduced that after the bloating kind of kicked in, just in case that was triggering it. So the movement reduced intentionally. I've still been moving, but I've done more gentle moving. So things like tensing and releasing my abdomen. I've reframed breath work as movement as well. So if you're breathing into your abdomen, that is still moving things, getting things shifted. So now my 5-10 minutes of movement can also include breath work, which I'm finding really, really more achievable, and I think more beneficial than actually not necessarily getting outside, but certainly going for walks or runs. So if any of this resonates, this episode is it was a massive reflection for me, and I was going to say I'll probably listen to it time and time again. I never listen to my podcasts, which is why there's so many ums and ahs and mistakes and stuff. These aren't edited. That might surprise you to know. But I won't listen to this. But what I might do, and what I will do, is put the notes that I made for recording this podcast into my journal. Because actually the reflection, I think, will be really positive and really powerful for me to come back to time and time again. That realisation that panic signing up for stuff might be energising at the time. It might give me hope. It might give me the energy to see a couple of days. But actually, long term, it isn't good for me, because I sign up to things that I can't possibly complete at that time. So that recognition of that is massively important. The outsourcing of that control, of that structure, of that regulation. I have all the tools I need inside me. I don't need to outsource that to anybody else. I don't need anybody else's structure. I'm actually perfectly capable of aligning my own structures with my own energies. And everybody is. It might sound, I might use terminology that isn't necessarily instantly recognisable for you, but everybody has that sovereignty within them to be able to say, okay, tomorrow is definitely a duvet day. It's almost just finding the way of doing that makes you feel good, so that we don't see it as a failure, that we don't see it as being weak or lazy or flaky or all of the other things that we tell ourselves or that we can tell ourselves. But we all have that sovereignty within us, whether we can access this or not. And it's especially difficult when you're living with something like endometriosis, because we're constantly feeling that we have to prove ourselves is the first thing, but also we're constantly feeling as if we're battling about our health. So actually for us to just sit down and say, do you know what? I'm going to take a duvet day and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to see the positive in it, rather than feeling like it's a failure, is actually quite difficult. Not reacting to temporary discomfort. So me understanding that actually, however many days of bloating, it passed. And literally nobody, excuse my language, nobody gives a shit what you do in that 2 days. So even if I'd spent those 2 days in bed with a heated blanket, with a hot water bottle, watching reruns at Married at First Sight, nobody cares. We feel as if people do. We feel as if we're being judged. We judge ourselves for doing it. but actually that sovereignty of being able to say, I'm going to take some time here and do exactly what I need to do to feel better. Making decisions from a place of safety, from a place of what feels good, rather than fear of being judged, fear of other people's opinions, fear of judging ourselves, fear of failure. That's huge. It's not that easy to do all the time, but it's absolutely huge. So again, for a little soundbite, I've written here, the old me would have responded to this discomfort with urgency. The old me would have signed up to something to try and make myself feel better, to try and prove that I was in control. But this time I responded with patience, kindness and patience. That's what I'm going to try and take from this fortnight. So that's the transformation that I hope has resonated. Whatever resonates, take with you. Whatever doesn't, just leave. That's absolutely fine. Not everything I'm saying will make complete sense to you. Not everything I'm saying you will necessarily agree with. But the bits, hopefully there are some bits that do resonate and that do help. Take those with you and do what you will with them. A couple of reflection points. So again, as my client, I'm going to reflect. I'm going to ask you this week or this fortnight, where do you sign up to, just to notice things that you sign up to from panic, or things that you agree to for panic because you feel as if you should, because they feel energizing in some ways, although there's normally something else sitting. Like I say, the energy came, but I could feel a heaviness in my shoulders. Your body knows. Where do you override that? Where do you ride that body knowing, that body heaviness, to try and feel as if you're reclaiming some sort of sense of control? And what would it feel like for you just to sit back and say, do you know what, I'm just going to say no for now. I might come back to it, but I'm not going to press that sign up button. I'm just going to sit with it. Notice how that feels, just saying, no, not for now. Notice how that feels in your body. What's relaxed, what's released? And is there more of that you could be doing? So for myself, for the next 2 weeks, I am going to do more of the same. So I'm going to recognise I'm not going to start running, although I might do. But if I do, it will be from a regulated place and a plan that suits me, knowing that I don't have to stick to the little reminders that pop up that feeling of wobbliness brings. Whatever I do, I will be making decisions from a place of calmness, from a place of gentle compassion, rather than from fear and feeling as if I should be doing something. So again, these 2 weeks will be post-period, the run up to ovulation. So I'm expecting a bit of a surge of energy. So I will ride that tide gently. I will program into my schedule things that I do well around ovulation, and I will just be really quite gentle and quite mindful. And I'll be wearing my new trousers and my new skirts with pride. I will be owning the 2 sizes up that I bought. Hydration, I'll get on top of hydration. I might eat less chocolate, but I might not as well. Whichever, I'm not going to be making that decision from a place of fear. So I hope this resonates. Like I say, take what you can, leave what you can, and until next time, be happy and just do what you can. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope that it's helped, and at the very least have given you hope and some solace that you're not alone in your own endometriosis journey. I'd like to thank Chris Collins for my theme tune. It's called Kindness, which I thought represented exactly what I wanted to walk this journey with. If you would like my help, if you would like any more information on my services, then you can check out my website on halcyonwomenhealth.com/women. And if you would like to take advantage of my free symptom tracker and a discount on the endometriosis workbook, then you can find that in the show notes. Thank you for listening.